the black box warning right now. Because as you can see from the thumbnail, we're going to be discussing the attack of the Oratchetans. And I understand that many of you may not know what an Oratchetan is. You're here because maybe you're curious. You're trying to figure out, what is this woman going to be talking about? What is an Oratchetan? Don't worry, we're going to get into a boatload of definitions tonight. But I want to do this show for a number of reasons. I want to do this show because, you guys, I'm tired. I am tired, and I have had it up to here with what I am seeing in the culture displayed for all the world to see. And it has kind of ignited a righteous indignation that I have to be careful, because if I allow my flesh to take over, it won't be good. So I want to go ahead and warn you now. First, I need you to like this video, right? I need you to go ahead, give this video a thumbs up. And then I also need you to share this video. There might be individuals who you think that this might be valuable for. We're going to do a little educating tonight. We're going to do a little exposing tonight. It will be high on the shame factor tonight. I have come prepared. I have come with videos. I have come with screen overlays. I am bringing my A game tonight. I'm not going to belabor the point. We are going to get straight into the topic this evening. So, as you can see, we're going to be discussing the attack of the Oratchetans. And recently, there was an Oratchetan sighting up in Philadelphia by an individual who goes by the name of Meatball. And I briefly discussed Meatball, last week in my live stream. And we're going to talk a bit more about the Meatballs of the world. Now, Meatball is the pseudonym for the social media influencer, Deja Blackwell. And Ms. Blackwell, she was arrested for inciting a riot and filming her antics on social media. And in addition to Meatball, we're going to be discussing Ebony K. Williams tonight. Ebony Williams, if you don't know, is the female attorney and host of The Griot. And she's been the topic of discussion this year as she disparaged blue-collar men, saying that, she wouldn't date a bus driver, but maybe if he owned the bus, she might give him the time of day. So you may not fully understand it now, but I'm going to be placing both Meatball and Ebony K. Williams in the category of Oratchetan. Both Meatball and Ebony, they are on the Oratchetan spectrum, but they're on opposite ends, right? So before I explain how both of them are Oratchetans, I want to go ahead and I'm going to briefly share a graphic that I created to kind of set the stage to help you understand and frame the direction of our conversation. Now, I'm not going to necessarily explain in grave detail the graphic, but I want you to see it. I want you to have it cemented in your mind, and we're going to just briefly talk about it, and then we're going to move on with the show. So let me get my graphic up here. So this right here, if you can see, this is the Oratchetan spectrum, right? And if you can see on the left side, you have M.U.T culture. And I'm going to define M.U.T culture, not right now, but if you can see and read the names that I've put under the category of M.U.T culture, you can use context clues to figure out and determine what I mean. And then all the way on the other side of the Oratchetan spectrum, you see the home wreckers, right? I've got some familiar faces and individuals that you might know, and I put them as the home wreckers. And then in the middle, you have this cross section of the feminazis and the black girl magic. Okay, now we're not going to spend a whole lot of time examining this. I just wanted to put it out there so that you can see it, so that you can kind of take it in and understand that tonight we're going to be dealing with the spectrum. Okay? That's the spectrum of the Oratchetans. Now, first, I need to, before I even explain how both of them are Oratchetans, I first need to refresh your memory. And I need to bring you guys up to speed on exactly what an Oratchetan is. So, what is an Oratchetan? I'm so glad you asked, right? Inquiring minds want to know, what is an Oratchetan? Now, if you're a regular of this show, you probably already know that. In case you don't, let's go ahead and define it, right? So that it is crystal clear what I mean and what I'm talking about. However, before I specifically go into the explanation and formal definition of what an Oratchetan is, let me tell you what an Oratchetan is not, okay? So an Oratchetan does not refer to ethnicity. I repeat, Oratchetans have nothing to do with your ethnicity. It doesn't refer to a particular part of the country, right? Or a part of the city or a region of the world. But in fact, Oratchetans, they can be found everywhere. Okay? There are Oratchetans on all 7 continents. Now, some regions of the world, they might have a higher concentration of the Oratchetan clans than others, but I want to be clear that Oratchetans are not localized to one part of the world, and it doesn't refer to any particular type of woman with a specific dermal feature. Dermal referring to the skin, okay? Now, let's get that out the way. And I'm going to reorient your thinking because I needed to say that so that you know that this is not about ethnicity. And in addition to this, Oratchetans, they don't have anything to do with skin color, but there are Oratchetans of all stripes, all hues, all tones. Your ethnicity and your skin color have zero to do with what makes one an Oratchetan. Okay, so an Oratchetan has zero to do with size. So in addition to, this is not a dermal feature thing. It has nothing to do with size. No one Oratchetan is the same size as the other, right? So you have skinny Oratchetans, you have fat Oratchetans, medium size. You got Oratchetans that are in shape that are hitting the gym. There are short, little bitty Oratchetans, and then you have tall ones. So hopefully by now you are sensing a pattern here. Oratchetans have zero to do with intrinsic or dermal realities, but it has everything to do with your mindset and your behavior, okay? So Oratchetans, they are identified by their mentality, which ultimately the mentality impacts how they present themselves to the world, and it shows up in their behavior. So you're probably wondering, what is the chief characteristic of an Oratchetan? Well, first, to identify one, all you have to do is observe their behavior, and then that will give you insight into the mentality, right? The mentality is what fuels their behavior. So if I were to put it into a more formal sense, okay? Let me go ahead and tell you what I prepared for you. Can y'all see that? The Oratchetan. Now, this is the formal definition of the Oratchetan, right? Because the Oratchetan spectrum, it represents a spectrum of female imbeciles who cannot manage their misery. So you see here, I've got the pronunciation broken down for you so you can see where all the syllable breaks are. You can see that it is a noun, so that's the part of speech that the Oratchetan is. Now, sometimes it can be used as a verb, but in the context for tonight, we are talking about it in the noun form. So the Oratchetan, it is a spectrum of female imbeciles who cannot manage their misery. They are identified by their mindset and their behavior. So you might be wondering, What is an imbecile, right? April, you're using all these new words. Listen, not trying to be disparaging, but I have to talk about the behavior. An imbecile is a foolish person, someone who lacks sense, right? The Oratchetan embodies this. And since they cannot manage their misery, they have a cage mentality, right? And since they have a cage mentality, it shows up in their behavior. But why is this? Why does it show up in their behavior? It's because when Oratchetans are out of their cage, they don't know what else to do, so they act out, right? You gotta think of it, look at it like a concrete jungle, right? The concrete jungle, it represents society. And in modern society, you have Oratchetans from all walks of life, and they are everywhere, just cageless, moronic, and out of order. Now, I want you guys stay with me because we're doing this slow tonight. I got nothing but time. I'm going to take you on a journey of the spectrum of the Oratchetan. Okay, so we're going to start now. Meatball. Meatball, she is on one end of the Oratchetan spectrum. So let me go ahead and show it to you again, just in case you missed it, right? That's your spectrum. Meatball's on one end. She's on one end of the spectrum, okay? She's on one end of the spectrum. On this end, you've got the animalistic, cageless imbeciles that they do things like they film themselves in a tub of dirty bath water, just naked, trying to sell a hat. Let me give you an example. Let me see. Here we go. Y'all see that? Okay. Now I'm showing this for shock value, and I've done my best to try to keep it PG-13. So I've blurred out the things that none of us want to see or should be subjected to, but this is a shot of Meatball in the tub, okay? Now, when out in the wild, this type of Oratchetan, they incite violence, okay? She screams and she hollers and she acts like this. So let's see.
Must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Yes. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Everybody must eat. Look, the girl laughing back there. She think it's a joke. Look, she laughing. Y'all, throw that chicken up here on my mom.
A few moments later.
Everybody must eat. Just screaming, hollering, out the cage, just don't know how to act. Just showing out. Now, what does Meatball represent? Okay. Now, Meatball represents the downgrade. The downgrade of an entire culture when matriarchy, I said it, you darn skippy I did, when matriarchy is allowed to flourish. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back who didn't hear me. Meatball represents the downgrade of an entire culture when the matriarchy is allowed to flourish. When you have generations of women left to themselves, raising offspring without accountability and without men, you get a slew of performance monkeys. Now, what you may not know is that Meatball is responsible for rounding up other Oratchetans along with the pavement apes, who themselves were probably raised by other Oratchetans. Right? She is the ringleader of the pact. Now, keep in mind, I am not referring to the external characteristics or the dermal features such as skin color or ethnicity. I am referring to a mindset that presents itself in the behavior. Remember, being a ratchetan is not a dermal characteristic. It is a mentality, and it is a behavioral distinction. And I want to make sure that y'all understand that if you're just joining in and you're hearing me use this term, a ratchetan, and you're like, oh my goodness, that is so offensive. This ain't dermal. This has nothing to do with external skin color, ethnicity, or country of origin. This is a behavioral distinction. Now, what's important to remember here is that I know many of you, y'all may think, oh, April, girl, you're just being harsh. You're just being way too harsh. Listen, you are free to feel that way. However, the problem is that shame needs to be associated with this behavior. We don't have enough shame going around. And since enough shame is not associated with this behavior, I'm not cleaning it up. I'm not sanitizing this foolishness. Nope, not gonna happen. I am going to call it out for what it is because these Oratchetans have been allowed to run wild with no accountability for far too long. And so clear lines are being drawn in the sand tonight. We need to name this, identify this, and bring awareness to it. So yes, there's going to be a huge element of shame highlighted on this show tonight. And I am not going to apologize for it. So go ahead, leave all the comments that you want. I told you, I ain't got nothing but time. I'm here for all the smoke. I might be here to midnight for all I know. I don't know. We're going to see how it goes. But here's where we are. What is Meatball and the Oratchetans like her? What are these women suffering from? Well, what are they dealing with? Meatball and Oratchetans like her, they are suffering from an identity crisis. She does not know who she is and what her purpose is, so she will degrade herself to try to be something. She don't know what, but she's going to be something. Only a person who is ignorant to their essence and worth would record themselves inciting a riot for attention. Only a person who lacks an identity would film themselves naked in a bathtub full of dirty water to sell a hat on Instagram. Y'all, this was about the hat, the beanie on her head. I have too much respect for my audience to play the actual video. So y'all just get the still shot. But it's on the Instagram. She wasn't even selling herself. She's selling a beanie in a tub full of dirty bath water. Only a person who is having a full identity crisis would boast on social media about defrauding the EBT system to get food stamps. Yes, that actually happened. She did that. Meatball represents an entire generation of women who are building an entire following rooted in debauchery. At 21 years old, this is what she is doing. And you guys, y'all may argue like, oh, you're just being too harsh and that, she's young. She doesn't know any better. Wrong. That's an adult. That's a whole full-grown adult. I will not infantilize these whole-grown women under the guise of they didn't do nothing because they don't know no better. No, she is grown. She is not a child. And this pathology, it runs deep because who raised her? Who raised her? You want to know who raised her? An Oratchetan. An Oratchetan raised her and turned her out into the culture for the rest of humanity to experience. How do we know? Because her mama is on camera acting like an Oratchetan. Go do the research for yourself. So we got, she's acting like an Oratchetan because the mama is an Oratchetan. She's an Oratchetan, the mama's an Oratchetan, and grandma is kind of like Oratchetan light. That's probably where it started. Neither of them can manage their misery. So what do? They unleash it for the rest of the world to experience. This woman, Meatball, has built an entire social media following rooted in debauchery. She worships chaos and destruction and just causing mayhem. She bows the knee to immorality. Her entire social media influence, it's rooted in loathe and in this fake liberation and just pure lawlessness. The meatballs and the females like her, they literally do not know how to function in freedom. That's why I referred to them earlier as just cageless and out of order. Just cageless and out of order. Completely out of order. Her and the mama. Her reckless behavior represents the culture that she's been raised in. And what culture is that? What culture am I saying that Meatball was raised in that can be implicated in explaining why she's acting the way that she is? I am so glad that you asked. Meatball. Meatball is the poster child for what I call M.U.T culture. That's menacing, unruly, and thuggish. Yes, I said it. She was raised and steeped in the ideology of M.U.T culture. Menacing, unruly, and thuggish. And before you come for me, hear me clearly. M.U.T culture has nothing to do with color. See, when you've been steeped in this colorism and this cultural Marxism, your mind automatically thinks that when I'm talking about M.U.T culture, oh, she must be talking about black people. Nope. That ain't what I said. It has nothing to do with culture. Nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with culture. I've been clear from the beginning that this is not about color. M.U.T culture is a mindset. It's a mentality. And none of this is dermal. It is cultural. It is purely cultural. It is stupid to even think that your skin complexion makes you act a certain way. So for all the special needs people who may be watching and who are struggling to make the proper category distinctions, I have been clear that I am not referring to dermal external features. This has everything to do with a mentality. So when I speak of M.U.T culture, I am speaking of the context of behavior. This M.U.T culture is a cancerous culture. It's a cancerous culture that results in fratricide and nihilism. It's actually, when you examine it at its core, it's a form of idolatry, and it's derived from loathe, liberation, and lawlessness. And when you subscribe to M.U.T culture, you don't value life. You don't value your neighbor's life. That's why you kill the unborn. That's why you fight for the right to snuff out the lives of your own kind in the womb under the guise of reproductive justice. And when I mean your own kind, I am not talking about the ones that look like you. I'm talking about humankind, because we are all of the human race. I'm talking about mankind, humankind, the imago Dei. That's what I am talking about. And when I talk about the propaganda of M.U.T culture, I'm referring to this worldview. It's a worldview that teaches you that you can act like a moron. And then you can encourage others to act like a moron. And you don't even need to fear being held accountable, because the system that you claim is against you is actually encouraging you to be a moron. Only an imbecile, a foolish person that lacks sense, would record their own participation in lawless behavior and then attempt to be like, you know what, I'm going to capitalize off of this, and I'm going to ask for money in support of my foolishness. This is how we know. She knows what she was doing, but she's steeped in the propaganda of M.U.T culture. The M.U.T culture, it deceives you into actually believing that you can be menacing, unruly, and thuggish, and that it's okay. Well, guess what? It is not. It is not okay, because, mind you, Negro Americans Negro Americans were not like this. I know that's a term y'all haven't heard in a while. Negro Americans did not subscribe to M.U.T culture. I saw somebody in the chat saying, this is why I don't identify with those people over there. I'm with you, brother. Negro Americans had to deal with conditions. They had to deal with the conditions of slavery and segregation. Those were very real, oppressive conditions, and they didn't even act like this. By God's grace, we had policies that managed to bypass and get rid of that. But Black Americans today, they're dealing with constructs, not conditions. And how do we know this? Because name something that a white person can do that you can't. I got all day. I ain't got nothing but time. Nothing. There's nothing that they can do that you can't. But somehow, so many of us have adopted M.U.T culture as a way of life. Because we've been told that, we so oppressed. And we are just dealing with so much that we don't have an outlet. We don't have after school programs, so we have to participate in M.U.T culture because we're bored. That's the prevailing narrative. The Afrosticians, the ones in charge, like the Brandon Johnsons, this is the foolery that they're spouting out, and they won't call this what this is. No. We're not gonna allow you. To talk about them like this. Let's just say, when we examine the past, Negro Americans were not like this, and they were dealing with serious conditions. The conditions that the Negro American had to live under was worse. But you didn't see no foolishness like this. Our behavior was nowhere near. You didn't see this. But you know what happened to us? Do you know? The propaganda of M.U.T culture happened to us. This bankrupt M.U.T culture is what happened to the American Negro. The propaganda of M.U.T culture effectively just destroyed us. It destroyed us and is destroying us. And there's a combination. I can't blame it all on M.U.T culture. Because M.U.T culture, yes, it is a huge implication in what's happening here. But it's the M.U.T culture and feminism. Feminism has been used, those two together, working in conjunction, have been used as a weapon to destroy the nuclear family, and people like Meatball, they continue time and time again to just nuke the nuclear family. I'm talking like bioweapon of mass destruction, nuking the nuclear family. This behavior by itself, it nukes the nuclear family and the fabric of a healthy society, because you can't even get to the point where you even understand what a family is, because if you did, you wouldn't embarrass yourself or the family that you represent. Matter of fact, most of these, they don't represent families. They don't represent families. They represent descendants and generations of Oratchetans. And at this point, it's not even a slow death. It's a rapid operation that has managed to do more harm than the KKK and Jim Crow ever set out to do. Prove me wrong. The numbers don't lie. I have truth and statistics and observable reality on my side. All you see is chaos and contempt and grievance when you are living in the freest time that you've ever lived in, with no conditions like the Negro American had to live and be subjected to. But you know what else destroyed us? In addition to the M.U.T culture, the feminism. Like I said, feminism just completely decimated what was left of the Negro American family.